All right, back again, everybody, to another of your favorite true crime and criminal culture talk show. My name's Brendan.
And I am Malia. Welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome to the True Crime Talk Show, everybody. Okay, so we are going to be getting into a couple cases today. We're going to be talking about some of the feedback and some of the viewer comments that have come up just recently from the coverage of the recent hearing, from Bryan Kohberger's alibi, some of the interests of the community and everything in between. We are also going to be covering the Treadmill homicide that we
have. Treadmill abuse murder case.
Yep. I was just trying not to use the M word, but yes, exactly. What? And because we're in the first 60 seconds and certain words count as bad words, the same as cussing. So we're going to be covering the Treadmill case, and we are going to be diving into it. And I got to be honest with you, I'm coming into this case here, as you can see in the picture, of the two people to the upper right. And I don't know much about it. I've seen the main video that has taken the internet by storm. And it is, oh gosh, it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch, understanding that this is this child's father. Okay. We're going to be watching it. We're going to be
regardless.
Yeah. It makes it harder for me, understanding that person is supposed to be that child's like safe zone. You know what I mean? And trust me, I hate looking at cases like this. They are absolutely needed, but they are so tough for me to look at. I don't know if it's because of my past. I have no idea, but I have a hard time looking at cases like this. But we're going to do it because they are very, very, very important. So welcome to the show, and super happy to have everyone here on the True Crime Talk Show. It is the one show that we're going to be covering all the cases from a perspective that you're not going to get from mainstream media. We're going to be giving some opinion. We are going to be covering all aspects of the case from an unbiased perspective, or as unbiased as we possibly can. So if you're in the chat, welcome everybody. If you are on one of the other platforms that we cover, welcome. And if you would like to be a part of the chat, you would go over to youtube.com, and search Thought Riot Podcast, and we will pop right up in there. And I got to be honest with you, We've even been getting more viewers on Twitter than YouTube, which is pretty incredible. Between the two Twitters. So yeah, what do you want to get into it first? I think the case that brings the biggest crowd, right? That doesn't mean it's more important at all. Is the Idaho 4, and why that's important is because most people are sitting here waiting for the Idaho 4 coverage. So do you want to get into that first, or do you want to get into that second?
I don't know. I guess we could go over the Treadmill case first, because honestly, I just started looking into this case because I saw the video actually pop up across my feed of the trial happening. And yeah, we're not, hold on, don't play it yet, but we'll get into Idaho 4 after we talk about this case. It's horribly tragic. It's so sad. But I really think there's something to be learned here. And it's a very interesting case that's being litigated right now, because there's like 3 different experts saying 3 different causes of death. And the system, quite honestly, failed this little boy. He was failed by the system. Absolutely.
Yes. All right. Coming back as a member for 4 months. I'm sorry. I just knew I'd forget, and I was trying not to do what we did to Cynthia last video where we forgot for like 45 minutes. So awesome. Yeah. We appreciate you. Of course, member for 4 months, ZJ. Awesome. So this is what I'm thinking. Because this video is so long, do you want to put this up on the background while we cover the case? Because I'm not going to be showing the sound or anything. on this video, but it'll let people, there's quite a few minutes before it gets to that part.
Okay, that's fine.
So we'll give you a brief rundown. Okay, so this is the video that sparked my interest. I think it's the video that sparked your interest too, right? And I happen to see the last portion of this video, which you guys will be able to see really clear on your own. Okay, what's going on and why it's wrong and everything else. And this case is in court right now. And do you know how long they've been at trial now?
I think it started.
Is this the first week or the second?
I don't know. I need to look.
I thought
I don't
saw
quite remember
that they just wrapped up week one or two. I
forget. It began in the trial this week. Oh, so it'll resume May 7th. So it began in trial. Okay, hold on.
Okay, but
so I think there has been a week 1 and they're resuming on May 7th.
Okay,
May 7th.
That's what I thought. Okay. So this has been in court for a week, you guys.
Yeah.
And what this video is basically what some experts claim are the reasons. This shows some abuse, and they believe that this or behavior like this is what is the cause of death for this young boy. And do you want to give his age, or we'll do that while we let the video play here?
So yeah, I'm going to give the rundown of the case.
Okay. This is the boy and this is the father. They are the only two in this home gym here.
Well, it's an apartment
gym.
It's an apartment complex gym. And this is where the father lives.
Okay.
Yeah. So this treadmill incident happened actually about 2 weeks before this little boy died.
Okay.
So where
from and I'm going to ask questions as you're going through it. So from what I heard though, isn't it one of the experts' opinion that literally this could have caused the death because of internal injury or whatever?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think this is just showing a pattern of abuse. It's not the incident that killed him.
Okay.
So there's a lot there. I think honestly there was a lot more abuse going on, I guarantee, than what was going on in this video. And this video is absolutely horrible. So on April 2nd, 2021, it's less than 2 weeks after this video that we're watching to the right, the little boy running on the treadmill, 6-year-old Corey Micciolo died about an hour after his father, Christopher Gregor, who's 31, brought his limp body into the emergency room at Southern Ocean Medical Center in neighboring Stafford. And this is New Jersey, I believe, right? I believe New Jersey. The child coded twice and died at 5:03 p.m. after they tried to save his life and were unsuccessful. So previously, literally the day before this little boy died in the ER, his mom took him to the hospital because of severe bruising and scrapes on his body. And she was worried about him. And we heard the pediatrician testify, and she claimed that, and there was some issues in court about this, where she kind of changed her story once she was in front of the jurors a little bit.
Yeah.
And the judge got really kind of upset about that. But so she said she had to basically kind of coax it out of him. And he claimed that the injuries happened from a treadmill and running, and his dad was teaching him how to catch a football.
Okay.
So football and treadmill. And his father literally said he made him run on a treadmill like this because he was too fat at 6 years old.
Wow. Okay.
And clearly this little boy wasn't fat. And even if he was, this isn't how you handle it. And you'll see. And, I'll try to give a warning. So look, his dad's walking over, checking on him. He'll come back over, and that if you don't want to see it, just turn away, because it is terrible abuse. So anyway,
Yeah, this is the part to watch, you guys.
Yeah, this is the bad part. So trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. He had contusions, which means bruising all over his body, in his heart and his liver. Okay, and this is him. He passed away. When they did the autopsy, they saw that his heart and his liver had lacerations, which essentially means blunt force trauma. Like severe damage to his heart
I was just trying
and
to
his
look
liver.
that right there. Okay, I'm gonna rewind this just a minute real quick.
Why?
So because he intentionally turns it up. This boy, and okay, so in my opinion, the father comes over there intentionally trying to make this boy fail. Okay, if you look at the okay, but the people watching don't know that. If you look at his pace of him running. And then the father comes over and puts his hand on the machine. His pace increases by a lot. Like, watch the difference. That's already faster. Oh, let's turn it up.
Yeah, he keeps turning it up.
Yeah, I know. It's with intent for him to fail.
Yep. So a big issue in this case is them disputing actually what his cause of death actually was. The defense is, so the state has an expert saying it was clearly the damage to his body from abuse, but the defense is bringing an expert claiming this little boy had sepsis from pneumonia, and that's how he died. I don't know how the defense got an expert to testify to that. I don't believe it.
Oh, man.
Not for a second.
This is so ridiculous.
I know. This is horrible. This is absolutely horrible. Did this apartment complex have people checking the security cameras? Because if I saw this, he'd be in trouble.
No, I don't think they pay for that.
Then why have security cameras at all?
In case something happens.
So sad.
It is. It's horrible. It's disgusting. And it's disgusting because there's a couple things going on here. Not only is this exact situation that's going on abusive, okay, but the fact that the boy knows that he needs to keep pushing past this, like without his dad even touching him right there, it to me that proves that there's already a pattern that he's fallen into and is afraid if he doesn't continue pushing, you know, that whatever's going to happen is worse than what this treadmill is going to do. And that's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it is super sad.
Look at like he's hopping on intentionally falling.
I know. He's just trying to please his dad. He doesn't want further abuse. You know, when he was holding him tight, I don't know if you noticed this part, but he bit his head.
What?
He bit his head when he was holding him really tight like that. He leaned down and bit that little boy's head.
That's disgusting.
All of it's absolutely disgusting. But yeah, I agree. It's so weird. Like,
yeah, but that's more disgusting than I think even like that's weird. That's strange. That's a strange thing to do.
That poor kid. So at the time, and you know, I tuned into this trial when the mother was testifying, and she made a Facebook group that apparently got very popular, seeking justice for Corey. You know, this happened.
Oh, dude, what? That is weird. What?
Yeah, this happened.
I did not notice that. That is absurd.
So this video takes place March 20th of 2021, and he died April 2nd of 2021. And Gregor was not charged with anything for a little while. So He was officially charged with murder in March of 2022, and he had been charged with endangering the welfare of a child. I think it was 8 months before that. Okay. So 8 months before that, he was charged with the endangerment of a child. And naturally, the mother didn't feel like justice was being gotten for her son, you know? She created the Facebook group and she created a GoFundMe where she got money, I think to get a burial plot next to her son. But at the time of his death, she did not have custody of him. She had a drug problem and lost custody of him. So the father actually had custody, and she took him to the hospital, okay, the night before, and was trying to get him help. And the pediatrician testified in court that the mom started breaking out in tears when they were talking about his injuries. And the little boy, Corey, he started crying too. And the only reason she took him back to her father is because she had to, or else she would get in trouble with the court. That's what's terrible. And then literally 24 hours later, he's dead. The father, they showed, I think it was the last day of the hearing this past week, I think. They showed a video of him carrying Corey into the ER. And Corey's like limp in his arms, and then he has a seizure once they're back there, and he passes away. And the nurse who took care of them originally testified how Corey was out of it and pale, and he didn't even notice how serious it was till he saw the little boy's head and how he was limp. And the reason his father was rushing him to the ER is because he was nauseous. He was I'm trying to remember all the symptoms off the top of my head. I know he was nauseous or throwing up, and like the symptoms of like, I think it's like I think he wasn't like, I think he was falling all over the place or something. Like he didn't have coordination, or, like things that are really scary, like a neurological problem maybe even is going on, is what I just thought when I saw it. I'm trying to find the symptoms real quick, because I remember them being said, but of course my mind's blanking on me right now. Okay.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So the prosecution is claiming that basically, obviously, that there was child abuse, and that something happened to Corey from the time the mom had him to the time, the dad had him and was in the ER the next day, because he was cleared and released from the hospital. They said he was okay.
Yeah.
But obviously he had all those bruises and signs of abuse, but they said he was okay.
Yeah.
They release him, and then he goes to his dad's and wakes up and has all these symptoms and dies. So they're claiming it was his fault. Like he did something that was like the final straw, basically, that killed the little boy. And the defense, and they say that there's x-rays of Corey's lungs that show no fractures to his chest and show his lungs were clear from the hospital. But the defense is having an expert coming in claiming he had pneumonia, and that's what killed him, that he had sepsis.
Okay. Based off everything that we're seeing, I mean, does that change anything? I feel like why wasn't he brought in anyways? It still shows a lack of concern.
I mean, he was brought in.
Yeah,
he was cleared from the hospital with no pneumonia literally 24 hours before this. The night before this.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand how the defense can even have an expert argue this.
Yeah, I got you now. Okay, I missed that.
I don't get it. It's really confusing.
I don't really understand that either. I'm not sure.
The mother testified that she filed an emergent application in family court for sole custody of Corey. And An assistant Ocean County prosecutor asked her why, and she said she was in fear for his life. One day before Corey's death, the application was denied. That's what I'm saying. Like, he was totally failed by the system.
It sure seems like it.
If you take your little boy to the hospital with that kind of bruising, and even the pediatrician felt like something was going on there, like, shouldn't they have looked more into this?
Yeah, I mean, that is standard in healthcare when you're in a hospital.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Especially with bruises on the torso. So I don't know if you guys know this, but the hospital is trained to see bruises on specific parts of the body, and those are indications of abuse. Like, you know, there's typical spots kids get bruises, like on their knees, they'll get bruises because kids are clumsy and fall down. Bruises on their head from bumping their head. I mean, unless it's like a really bad one, and it's excessive, like a whole bunch or something. But when it comes to bruises on the torso and the back, that's when like right here on the arm where they can be grabbed and things like that. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to report it. They're supposed to look more into it. They're supposed to ask more questions. Yeah, I agree. There's no way he died from pneumonia, in my opinion. I think it was so obvious in the hospital that it's concerning to me that it wasn't reported like right then and there. Like, I don't know if the mother was, since she had I'm not 100% sure what all her actions were. Obviously, she filed that emergency action to try to get full custody of him, and it was denied. But like, in the hospital, I would have called the police. Like, I would have, you know what I mean? I would have talked to the healthcare workers. I would try to get this documented and on the roll to try to prove he is being abused. Abuse like that, the kind of bruises he was suffering, that is like life-threatening.
The only thing I'm worried about going down that road, and I'm always concerned with like sharing blame, because I think there is one problem in any of these situations, and that one problem is the abuser. Okay, the hospital. Listen, hospitals do the absolute best they can do, but sometimes they miss things. Sometimes they miss diagnoses.
Sure.
Sometimes they miss abuse. Sometimes they miss these things that could be seemingly obvious, because doctors and nurses are people that are going through their own things in life. So I have a very hard time when a situation like this occurs, where you have a very clear person that is doing something illegal, unfair, and needs to be put behind bars, and then maybe kind of sharing the blame with doctors too. You know what I mean? So could they have done better? Yeah, maybe. But the problem is that this man is an abuser. You know?
Yeah.
And is there anything that hospital could have done right then that could have saved his life? Because when you're looking at the injuries from this boy, it has been going on for a long time. And if it didn't happen today, it would have happened next week, probably.
Right.
Let's be real here, based off of what we're seeing. And I don't know if you guys watched that video, and I might play it one more time. But when you look at his face, I'm picking up micro expressions on his face that isn't giving me remorse. It's giving me frustration, the pressing of his lips, his scrunched forehead. That's not remorse, that's not sadness, that is frustration. That is you know, I don't know, I can't think of the word right now, but it's not the normal standard human emotions that you would see, especially when you're dealing with a loss from someone, a family member, a child.
Yeah, your child. I agree with you. And there's the video when they played him taking Corey to the hospital. He his face seemed like he was trying to kind of feign emotion. Like, he seemed like it was trying to get it to come out, and it just literally wasn't working for him. Yeah, it looked like he was trying to look upset or sad or something. But then there's this part where he's like, it totally disappears, and he leans over to talk to his lawyer really quick. And I'm like, if you're really feeling sad, I don't think it would disappear from your face that quick, you know?
Yeah.
But so he has been trying to paint the mom as the one who actually is to blame. They're trying to say that she was told he had pneumonia at the hospital and that he could have sepsis. They're saying that she was told that, and that she signed
And they sent him home.
and that she signed him out. That's what the defense is trying to say, is that she signed him out early.
What?
And that she was told he had pneumonia, and she went against medical advice. But I look, if the x-rays show his lungs were clear, there's just no basis to that argument. There's just no evidence to support it. So I don't understand why they're even making this argument. Like, do they think the jury is dumb? And after seeing that treadmill video, like,
I don't know.
If I was caught red-handed like that, I
Perception,
don't
I'm
know if
telling
I
you.
would try to even go through this trial.
Yeah.
If there was a video of like that, like, you're literally caught red-handed, dude.
Yeah, I'm telling you though, that perception is something in the courtroom, and I back the like I've said a million times, especially this week alone, you guys, that perception in my opinion is the biggest value in court. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unfortunately, our court system is not always objective. It is, unfortunately, primarily subjective, based on the best grandstander and based off the best, the attorney that can control the perception of the jury and the story the best, in my opinion. Is it always fair? Absolutely not. But you know, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
Yep. And look, the mom has her flaws, like serious flaws. Like, the day this little boy passed away, she was texting her boyfriend to get meth. Okay. Like, she was an active drug addict, pretty much. She was a drug addict. Like, she wasn't a good parent. But she wasn't abusing him. And I don't think either parent should have had him. Like, neither parent. A drug abuser is dangerous for a child.
Yeah.
Okay. An abuser is dangerous for a child. And just because she's a drug addict doesn't mean he's not abusive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when the court
absolutely.
is analyzing this, they can't just take her claims of abuse, especially when he's been to the hospital with all these bruises, as nothing, just because she's a drug addict.
Yeah, I mean, I think that video shows very clear what was going on here. Listen, have you guys ever fallen on a treadmill like that before? Like, it really hurts. It really tears you up. And this kid went at it like 3 or 4 more times after being bitten in fear of his father, which I didn't even know about that when I watched the video the first time. I was actually looking at how tight he was squeezing him, if he was like causing, you know, the kid's tiny and the father's pretty big, so it made me worried. Like, is he squeezing him hard enough to like break a rib? That's what I was thinking the very first time I watched it. So I didn't see him bite his head, but he feared him enough to put his body at risk of hopping on that treadmill. And in my opinion, based on how that child was jumping on the treadmill, he was jumping on with the intention of falling, in my opinion, because that seemed like a better outcome than his dad hurting him. So, as sad as that is.
Yeah, it's really horrible. You know, the mom has done things that make her look really bad. Like, she went and threw rocks, dead fish, and bones and eggs at his parents' house after her kid died, after Corey died, meaning the father, his parents' house. She did things that weren't tasteful, that were not good, out of anger and sadness and grief and everything.
Yeah.
And
what's interesting though is that to me that just seems like a deflection. Why are we even talking about the mother? Because he's trying to point the blame on the mother.
Yes.
Because in my opinion,
Yes.
like, okay, the mother's flawed. It is what it is. But in my opinion, also, like, these injuries didn't come from the mother. It's pretty clear that the mother didn't take the child in with these significant injuries. And then, you know, the cause is pretty straightforward here. And it always makes me nervous with how our judicial system works that, you know, creating cloudy situations only helps the defendant here when the defendant's actually guilty. And based on this video, which you guys all know how I feel about video is literally the only evidence that is like 100% concrete every single time, no matter what, right? It's more reliable than anything and everything, obviously. It's pretty straightforward and clear here. Like, are we really going to play semantics? Well, sure, I abused him, but I didn't abuse him enough to kill him. Come on, get out of here. All these injuries are from abuse. And, you know, this is what you did. This is what you did. So, you know, the father needs to be held accountable. In my opinion, there is no argument there. There is no argument there. But
yep, I agree. So the morning that Corey died, Gregor made a phone call to the State Division of Child Protection. So, I mean, there's all kinds of acronyms for that kind of thing, in which he told an employee that the child's mother made false child abuse allegations against him more than a dozen times in the past. He said he was worried that caseworkers would take the latest allegations seriously.
oh gosh, yeah,
That morning,
that screams guilt to me.
That morning, he calls him and is like, she's been accusing me of, you know, abusing my son and has done it at least a dozen times. And I'm afraid you're going to take, you know, her most recent allegations seriously.
We got to keep the chat PG, you guys. Please, 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 please don't make me silence you.
And he claimed that Corey would come home to his house and say, my mom told me to lie. I had to do it. And I don't want to go back with her because she's going to take me away from you. Like, if Corey ever said that, it's because you made him say it. Okay. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
kids, I mean, look,
that's
kids
just really sad because it's not that simple. I know it's easy to say it like that. Like, if a child said this, it's because the child was forced to do that. You know, unfortunately, or I mean, it's not unfortunate. It just is part of life. But kids don't have a fully formed brain. Okay, so like, there's a lot of therapists out there. I've done a lot of research into brain formation and when certain things come as the brain is developing, and literally kids just don't have most kids can't understand certain concepts, you know, until like their mid-20s even. That frontal lobe is such an important integral part of our human existence and human decisions and adult decisions, and adult existence, that maybe the child felt like he truly believed that in that situation because his father was forcing it on him and he wanted to be like his father. Like, that's where trauma gets really cloudy, and it's not black or white. It doesn't make sense, and you can't depend on a child's opinion in these situations, because most kids, even when they're in abusive situations, still look up to their parents, unfortunately, because they don't have the understanding and the mental capacity to understand that, hey, I'm the one who's being wronged here, and I shouldn't be treated that way. They don't know any other way. All they know is the way that they've been flung into in life, and that's all their perception in life is. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't even, it wouldn't be a surprise to me even if the kid did believe that. even if he did believe it,
No,
because his
he's
father
trying to
endlessly
please-
beat it into him.
Yeah,
you know?
he's trying to please his father, and that's obvious from the treadmill video
Stockholm
too.
syndrome, very similarly. Yeah, you're right.
And TC said she was supposed to have him back the day after he died. That's suspicious. He only met his real father less than a year before this. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think he definitely was trying to please his father. I think all kids try to do that, no matter how abusive their parent is. And that's, I mean, kids are innocent. They're so innocent. They depend on adults for everything. It's just, he is a darling little boy. He looks so sweet. And there's text messages in the trial where the mom texts the father and says, hey, something about Corey was crying or upset because he was trying to show his father something, and the father literally just like walked out the door, and he was crying, and the father was like, gosh, I wish I had the exact text. He said something about, he's being overly emotional, and she was like, he's taught to show his emotions, like he's taught to do that, and he's like, well, there's a difference between being emotional and overly emotional.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So I wish I had all the messages for that. Maybe I can pull them up next time. But so okay, the symptoms he had when he woke up.
Alex, you're right. That is definitely a response to some of the trauma that I was just talking about. But some kids also don't do that. I think it's on a kid per kid basis. You know what I mean? But yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about Sebastian Rogers earlier in our video that we released earlier today. And hang on, I'll post it. If you guys haven't watched that it's the coverage that we were going to cover last night. So we just did it today, and all right. Good.
So some of the symptoms that he had woken up with that I was trying to find because I couldn't remember them was nausea, shortness of breath, and slurring his words, which is interesting. Like, I'm curious what the medical examiners are exactly going to argue, because do you think a heart laceration and liver laceration would cause that, like, shortness of breath and slurring your words and stumbling? Like, that almost sounds neurological to me.
I am not a doctor. I have no idea. I don't feel secure enough at all to answer that.
Well, I guess
question.
If your heart isn't functioning properly, you could not be getting oxygen, like the right amount of oxygen to your brain. And if your liver is damaged in some way, it could cause some kind of toxicity, I'm sure. I'm just thinking, like, how does that work, Like, how does that work in the body? And he had a seizure before he passed away. I'm curious how this is going to be argued. But Dr. Dante Ragusa, an Ocean County medical examiner who performed the April 3rd autopsy on Corey's body, issued a finding on the cause of death: blunt force injuries with cardiac and liver contusions with acute inflammation and sepsis. However, he did not rule on the manner of death. Rather, he deemed it undetermined. A forensic pathologist reviewed the case in September of 2021 and determined that the manner of death was homicide. Dr. Thomas Andrew believed Corey suffered an acute traumatic injury to the heart 4 to 12 hours before his death. Dr. Andrew found what he described as evidence of chronic abuse, including blunt impact injuries of the chest and abdomen with laceration of the heart, left pulmonary contusion, laceration, and contusion to the liver. So that's what the two, basically what the state is arguing. That's the evidence they're using, is those two medical examiners.
Okay.
And then the defense has a third one.
Okay.
Who is claiming pneumonia and sepsis. He hired a forensic pathologist what's his name? Mario Gallucci.
Okay.
Yeah, they say complications of pneumonia, like I said earlier, which is it's really, really interesting. I don't believe we've heard the defense expert at all, but maybe I'm wrong. I haven't seen it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I think they actually did. I think they did. I just don't think I've seen it yet.
I had a friend who was in a car accident, and they thought they were okay. They were in a car accident. They were not wearing their seatbelt. Their head hit the windshield, and they got a cut on their head and was profusely bleeding. Their chest. So it was in a Jeep, and I don't know if you guys know much about Jeeps, but Jeeps have a glove box that is almost flat, and then they have like an oh crap handle that sticks out from that glove box like further, so you can grab onto it in the passenger seat. His head hit the windshield, that bar hit his chest, and he didn't fly out of the Jeep. But he thought he was okay other than what was going on in his head. And less than like, I don't know, I don't remember what it was, 5 hours or something like that. Maybe it was like 4.5 hours. He ended up dying because there was a rip to his heart, and they didn't know, and it didn't show any signs. It was all impact. So there are situations where certain impacts can cause internal ripping, tearing, things of that nature, you guys. And it's really hard to think scary idea. It's a scary thought to know that, you know, there are some times where humans are like, you see them thrown through cars, or like that one girl recently that rolled her car, thrown through the car, and hung on an electric wire for like hours, and she lived. You see situations like that, and you're thinking, wow, humans, we can get through a lot. Our bodies can handle a lot. But then you see other situations where it seems like they should be okay. All they had is like a light scratch on their head, and then bam, a few hours later they pass, you know, with no signs and no nothing. So gosh, it's really up in the air with situations like that. And it seems like to me, well, to be honest, I don't want to make this situation seem like it's a one-off situation. Clearly it wasn't. What we're seeing here in that on the screen and under that camera in the gym, that is not a one-off situation. I'm sorry, but the father's pretty comfortable. They aren't in a fight. That kid's not yelling or throwing a fit at his dad. The dad, like, without being antagonized at all, aggressively attacks his son.
Yep.
That is not somebody who's just doing it one off. That clearly that guy is comfortable doing that, you know? Yep. That is absurd. It is insane. So, like, I go back to my original argument that, yes, you know, maybe there was a way to save him this day, you know, and maybe there was something that they could cast onto the hospital and say, well, the hospital should have asked these questions. The hospital should have said this. The hospital should have done that. But what was going to save him next week? What was going to save him the next week after that? What was going to save him the next week after that? Unfortunately, this kid's time with a father that was treating him in that way was already set, you guys. It's really sad. It's really horrible to think about, but this isn't a one-off situation. This man was unfortunately way too comfortable being abusive, you know?
Way too comfortable. And yeah, you're right. He wasn't antagonized at all. He literally just felt like it. He was over there working out. His son's running on the treadmill, and he just walks over there and turns it up to, you know, mess with him.
Yeah, here.
Literally just to start crap with him and hurt him for no apparent reason.
For all of you that have just joined, this is a 6-minute video. And at about 4 minutes in, after working out, the father walks over to his son and turns up the treadmill until it is going so fast that his son can't keep up with it, and then attacks him for not being able to keep up at a speed that no kid of that age should be expected to keep up with. It's absolute insanity. It is absolute insanity and so horrible to watch. And yeah, for those of you that already saw this in the beginning of this stream, watch this man's face. This is not remorse, okay? And I understand. I usually try and remain very unbiased, but
Also,
this is based off my personal experience in my career and micro expression. And when I see signs like that, those signs would tell me that something's wrong with this person in front of me. I need to take a step back. They're frustrated. They're angry I'm here. Maybe there's something going on in their life and I'm interrupting that. But look at his forehead. His forehead is all tight. That's a sign of frustration. Him pressing his lips in that way, those are not signs of remorse and sadness and loss. Yeah, I feel like he's mad that he's having to sit there while everyone watches this. I think he's embarrassed. I think he's frustrated and embarrassed, which he should be.
Exactly. So look, the hospital that discharged him before he went to his father's,
look at that,
said his blood work was normal, his x-ray was normal, he was just a little dehydrated and afraid to answer questions, but they let him go with his mom. Like, that should tell you everything. Like, they did x-rays, they did blood work, because the guy who testified about Corey before he went back to his father's house before he died said that he was concerned the little boy had one of those bleeding diseases. Like, with that many bruises, okay, think about that. He thought this boy must have a condition that causes him to bruise so badly because of how bruised he was.
Yeah,
and he checked and nothing was wrong with the boy. Wouldn't you think sepsis or pneumonia or would show up in an x-ray and blood work? Yeah, because it does.
That's so strange, you guys.
What?
Somebody called me out. I'm trying to say you guys less, okay? I'm trying. I say it because I feel like I am having a conversation with our viewers. So I'm trying, but
yep, another Adam Montgomery. Exactly.
During the part where the kid is literally jumping on and falling off, where I think the part of this video where he could be physically hurt the worst, the father watched that without giving any signs on his face whatsoever, which in my opinion, that should be the part where he should be the most uncomfortable with his own actions, and he's not. To me, he puts all the signs on his face before this most uncomfortable part and then doesn't give any signs during this. He literally deadlock stares the video and nothing, absolutely nothing. I get nothing from him during this part. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's not until it's over he does that light shaking of his head that he's been doing as he was pacing the gym the whole time. Really strange. It's really strange. That's not what I would expect to see, right? In my opinion, that's the part that I would expect to see somebody either to turn away, or that's the part where I would expect them to have a hard time watching or show some sort of empathy or emotion or maybe frustration in themselves, which looks different than frustration for the situation. And we don't get any of that. So is there some sociopathic tendencies in this man? I don't know, you guys. I have no idea.
He kind of seems like it. Apparently, he is the son of a highly decorated New Jersey state trooper.
Oh, man. Oof.
Yeah.
We've all heard those horror stories before, and I don't want to put anybody in a box, but for whatever reason, military, law enforcement, they have classic, right? And that doesn't mean that's how it is today or anything like that, but classically, they were known to have a strong hand in child rearing and raising.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's what he thought he was kind of doing while also being abusive. I mean, because like, why was it like, what's the
That's
whole idea?
tough.
You're fat, run on a treadmill. Like, what? So he apparently was a high school football star too, and a youth mentor.
Oh, okay.
Yep, he was an honor student.
Are they trying to use that to say, like, this is why he shouldn't be found guilty?
No, this is just some background on him. So, the father, he was a high school football star, youth mentor who went to Monroe Township High School, where he was an honor student and all-state defensive lineman who played for the school's 2009 Group 3 state championship football team. That same year, he was even elected to be part of the district's Heroes and Cool Kids mentorship program for middle schoolers, reserved for high school students considered positive role models by their administrators.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, that background. Listen,
he was a real estate agent currently when this happened.
A background, in my opinion, doesn't give you a good understanding of how someone is going to turn out as an adult at all. One thing that I think is very
clearly not.
This comment is very interesting, where TC says abusive men always blame the women. Now
they do.
Yeah,
in my experience too, that's true.
Right. I always just want to make sure I'm not presenting something as a blanket statement as all abusive men. But yes, you're right. Statistically, the majority of that statistic, you're right, 100%. And when you said that, it made me think, has the prosecution thought of using that as an example of conviction? Is saying, look, of course he's coming out and saying that it's the mother, because let me show you the statistics that abusive men tend to blame the women in these situations because they see themselves as greater than their partner or woman. They see themselves greater than the children that these women bear that are theirs. You know what I mean? I think that's a great argument to have, because it's interesting that that's the defense's go-to, you know?
Yep. I think that's a great suggestion.
Right. That comment's spot on.
Yeah, because look, this is one thing from experience with other people in my past. If you get into a relationship with a guy and he is just talking crap on all his exes, major red flag. Major red flag. If he's blaming all of his relationship issues in the past on all the women and never any accountability for anything, and even talking about it, like, why you come into a relationship talking about how all the women in your past suck? I mean, what a weird thing to do.
It really was all my ex's fault.
Sure. It was all his fault.
No, but you're right. That is a massive red flag. And I do think that it's more and more rare nowadays that you find someone in the madness of today's dating climate where you have somebody who is like, yeah, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4 serious relationships, and you know, we just came to terms and decided to break up because we weren't right for each other. Like, you never come across that ever. That is so rare, you know.
He does look like he's a Chad or something. Someone said he looks like Chad Daybell. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, he's not a Chad, but like
I'm looking forward for him to go to prison and be bullied the way he bullied his son, because there's always someone bigger and badder than you in prison. Okay,
this case is out of North. Is it Connecticut? North
Carolina? I thought it was New Jersey.
Or New Jersey. New Jersey. Okay, yeah, East Coast. I knew it was somewhere over there. My bad.
So apparently
New Jersey.
over the years he's had like a few interactions with the law, and he had a half a dozen criminal charges between August 2017
A half a dozen
to April 2018, including assault, robbery, and destruction of property.
Gosh.
In that year, he had a half a dozen assault, robbery, and destruction of property.
And he had custody of this child?
Yeah. I mean, that was so 2021 is when this happened.
Ago?
So this happened 8 years ago when Corey died.
Oh.
I said it, April 2nd of 2021 is when Corey died. 2017 and 2018 is when he racked up those half a dozen charges, and this is just now going to trial.
Okay, yeah. No. I think you said that backwards. So the child's passing was only 3 years ago.
Oh,
the charges was 8 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I think you're right. Yeah, I messed that up. I did say that backwards.
I guess 8 years is enough time to recover, because I'm all for forgiving people because of the things that I've gone through in my life and the trauma I had. You're not letting me finish.
Go ahead.
So because of the trauma that I had in my life, I understand feeling like you need that chaos in your life. And part of that is taking advantage of systems and, you know, the things that come, not people. That is a very different problem, in my opinion, that those are very different character traits that you can identify in people. When you have trauma-based chaos, that you're not out there trying to hurt someone, you're out there trying to feel something, you know. But like his charges, like robbery, assault that can happen in a bar fight, like
property
these
damage,
things, in my opinion, are things that are forgivable and you can come out of in your life and live a normal life. This obviously is not. That is not what I'm suggesting is forgivable here. I am suggesting his past could be seen as being forgivable, but then when you have this more recent on top of it, clearly he never learned from that, or there was still some kind of trauma, there was still some kind of aggression, there was still something going on there.
And I agree, because think about this, okay? Let me just tell you about this real quick. There were warning signs from the very day that Gregor met Corey, this little boy, when he was only 5 years old. He meets him for the first time, and he gets returned to his mother with a busted lip, where Gregor says he accidentally kicked him in the face while playing soccer. The first time he meets this little boy, he comes home with a busted lip.
Yeah, that's insane.
And this is, again, the first time he met him. He's 5. He spent 5 years without meeting his father. And the first time he meets him, and like, I want to know how all that happened. I really want to dig back into that part of this case and see, how did he meet him for the first time and get custody of him in 1 year? And he meets him, gets custody, and the boy dies all in a year's time. It kind of
feels a little sociopathic, because sociopaths are so good at creating this persona of who they are. You know what I mean?
And why would you give custody to a father who just met his child?
I mean, maybe it was the best of a bad situation, and clearly it was a mistake. I'm not saying that's not a mistake. It feels like a pretty big mistake now looking back, but you know, I'm just trying to think of possible reasons and options.
And nobody would listen to the mom, no matter how much she brought this up, that he was being abused, because she was a drug addict.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
Talked about how unfortunate the social issues are with being more accepting of drug addicts, especially, you know, on just the other side, as we're coming out of this war on drugs. There's got to be a better system. There's got to be a better system here.
Yeah, I agree. So here, let's see.
All right, restroom.
I wanted to see how he met the mother. So I know there's something there. I'm trying to find it, you guys, because I don't have a good memory. Like, I always think I'm going to remember things and I don't remember things. So, um, but there is a little bit more information, like stories of him in his college days, out there that talk about some of like kind of the trouble he got in. He went to like some kind of it's a small liberal arts school called Wesleyan University. I think that's how you say it. About 3,200 kids in Middleton, Connecticut. He got arrested in November of 2010 for stealing from a female dorm resident's room and assaulted 2 male students while he was drunk. As they tried to stop him and he was trying to run away, he punched and elbowed them in the face. He got an undergrad, a Bachelor of Arts in psychology. Psychology, go figure. So that was at the University of Arizona, an online school formerly called Ashford University. He earned his master's in secondary education and teaching. This man was a teacher. He was going to school to be a teacher. He's got to be a sociopath. Psychology teacher becomes a real estate agent. He actually worked for a crisis hotline at one point as a counselor, a math teacher, a sales associate. What the heck? All over the place, right? All over the place. Oh, okay. So this is the text message about him smacking the football out of the little boy's hand. So the mom texted him and said that Corey had come upstairs crying, and said that his dad had smacked a football out of his hand after he asked his dad to tell him about his glory days of playing football in high school. So the little boy's got the football in his hand. He's like, "Dad, can you tell me about what it was like playing high school football?" And his dad was like, "Smack," and walked out. And it made the little boy cry. And he replied to the mom, "That's a lie. I smacked the ball out of his hand and he didn't say a word to me. Maybe he needs to be a little tougher." Yeah, right. Loser. There's nobody who's ever made me as angry. I mean, I take that back. There's people who have made me this angry, like Chris Watts, but he's one of the more disgusting people. He's definitely one of the more disgusting people I've ever seen. When Brennan gets back, I think we can get into Idaho 4 when he gets back from the bathroom. I just wanted to find really quick how he met Corey's mom. But I might have to save it for another day because I can't remember all the details right now. Okay, do you want to get into Idaho 4 now?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to watch the rest of the trial as this is going on. It's really disturbing for me. I really wish.
I think it's disturbing for
It's
everyone.
super disturbing. And I'm just sad. Like, I think honestly, there were kind of signs with this guy being a total psycho, like going back quite a while. And I saw some people in the chat saying that he actually R-worded somebody. I haven't seen that, but I do know there's something there with how he met the mom, but I need to go back and find it. But yeah, I'm going to watch this case as it goes through trial. You can watch with us, and we can have recaps if you guys like, talk about what's going on in the case. I just really hate to see a kid failed by the system like this. And I think it takes more awareness on all adults involved, paying attention to signs of abuse like this, so that hopefully we can make a difference if we see it.
Yeah, I agree. And
Don't be afraid to report it.
That's why I wanted to cover this. And listen, for me, like I said in the beginning of this, you guys, this case is very hard for me to cover. Anything having to do with a child, an adolescent child, is hard for me to cover. And I don't know if it has to do with my past trauma. I don't know what it has to do with, or maybe I just have a giant soft spot for kids in that way. But it's to the point where I don't like watching videos about it. Just tell me the details. I don't want to see anything having to do with any of the abuse, so that I can at least have an opinion on how the case is going. But anyways, even with that, which is the reason why I try and stay away from child abuse type cases, they are so important to cover. Like you said, the awareness, it's all of our jobs to look for these things when we're out in public, you guys. And I said you guys again. If we're out at a fair, if you're out at a park, if you're taking a run, if you're whatever at the grocery store, and you see abuse to a child, in my opinion, we can all be better about reporting that and letting somebody know, because if you're seeing it even a little bit, then more than likely it's a lot more severe behind closed doors. And I think if we all looked for these things and were more proactive about alerting that, and I'm not saying nobody isn't proactive, but if we all are more proactive about looking for these things and saying something, when you see something, say something, I bet we could take a chunk out of this percentage of, abuse in the world that we have right now.
Right.
So, that was my interest in covering this, is just to help reduce these situations. If we can even knock it down 1%, that's a win. If we can knock it down 0.5, if we can save one kid, that's a win, and that's worth it. So,
and we did watch the video earlier, you guys. And yeah, I agree, Ray. It's not just about a soft spot. It's about, we're supposed to protect our babies, and that's supposed to be something that's ingrained in you as a parent, as a human, not to hurt them, but protect them.
Yeah. And you can't tell if a person is a dangerous person or not. You're right in saying that. And that's been my experience too. There's this perception, because I think it's Hollywood movies, right? Hollywood movies have this idea of like what a tough guy is. He's the loud, outspoken one that doesn't take anything from anybody. In my experience, the most dangerous people are the ones that you would least expect. They're the quiet ones, in the back of the room that don't want attention cast on them. Not always. I think it could be anybody, but that's just another reason why we can look for these things, in my opinion. So, but yeah, we can move on here to the Bryan Kohberger case. Now, you had made some comments before the video that you were able to watch, one of our favorite content creators out there, the lawyer, and I will pull up his account, because if you guys don't know who the lawyer is, absolutely incredible legal coverage for cases. He covers a whole bunch of cases, and he gives you great perspective on looking at any of the cases from, how your defense attorney or prosecutor is looking at these things. And I can't even put a worth on on how much I appreciate the coverage he offers. So if you guys haven't seen him before, make sure you check him out. This is his channel here. It's literally at Lawyer You Know. So give me the rundown, because I haven't seen the video. What is said, what is talked about, what?
So, you know, I think that, look, the one thing that I think he said that was really interesting to me, because he offers a perspective as a lawyer, as somebody who's argued in court, as somebody who's went to trial, as somebody who knows the tactics because they use the tactics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's, in my opinion, very fair in his analysis. He doesn't tend to go with one side or the other, though he gets accused of it all the time. He is very balanced. I think it's a huge strength of his when analyzing cases. I think if he never plans on being a judge, maybe he should, because of how balanced he is. Like, I think it's impressive, if I'm being honest, because even myself sometimes, like, I'm feeling kind of biased towards one side, and you know, listening to his coverage, it kind of brings me back more to the middle. So one thing that he talked about in his coverage of the recent hearing was that he felt like Anne chose a lot of words very carefully to basically put on a show for the public. And this is something that we kind of talked about a little bit.
Yep.
And the fact that we believed Ann Taylor is changing her tune, or we came up with some possibilities. Like, did the recent jury survey and the expert she's been working with doing this key her in on some things like, hey, this character assassination campaign is really bad for your client. Okay. Yeah. This is bad. Right. We need to get some information out there to start balancing the scales a little bit, because it all looks slanted one way. And she was like, okay, look, I've been keeping all this secret because I thought it was helping Bryan, but actually I'm hurting Bryan because I'm not giving our side of things. They're seeing this pretty package of how the case looks from the outside with this PCA. They're not seeing that the state is refusing to hand over the evidence that they cited in the PCA as the reason for this man's arrest. We don't have this evidence that they used to arrest him. So I think that we kind of touched on it, but kind of in a different way and in a different light. Like, well, is she doing this now to get out her side to balance those scales? And I think he's kind of arguing a similar thing, but in a way where he's talking about the tactic of, like, saying very specific things to get it out in the public, to get the public questioning things. Very choice words that she used.
It's interesting that we're seeing an attorney say that, because
you're
agree. Right. When you first said this, I was like, wait, did we say that? But it is an idea that we've covered now for 3 cases, or I'm sorry, 3 cases, for 3 hearings, where I agree. And we have brought this up on 3 different videos where we've talked about, do you think she's intentionally using certain word choices to bring attention to those topics? Because maybe there's something funky going on there. And you know, it's interesting. It's really interesting that that an attorney is actually picking up that possibility, because, like we have said over and 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 over again, that this is a trial by media. There is no way around it. It started as a trial by media as soon as the public picked it up and was as serious about its coverage as it is today. And it is still a trial by media.
It is.
And it's not in the defendant's favor.
Well, that's kind of what the lawyer was arguing, is that she is kind of setting this up for a trial in the media with what she's saying right now. Yeah, he kind of, yeah. I understand. I do feel like the prosecution has set it up for that in the first place. So if she's playing those same games now, so they started it. You know what I mean? Like, if they're going to play those games, you kind of got to play those games.
You do. Otherwise you're going to lose.
Yeah. So Jeff, I don't know if I entirely agree with you. So he said, does saying BK was at, or Bryan Kohberger was at Wawa Way Park Oh, can you scroll back up to Jeff's comment? Oh, wait, right there. You're killing me. Okay.
What?
Does saying Bryan Kohberger's at Wabuway Park in the early morning hours, is that as accurate as the times given in Payne's PCA? I disagree about accurate. Seems Bryan Kohberger would have benefited from mentioning the time. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know that Kohberger would have benefited from mentioning the time of his alibi of when this information is placing him there, because they don't want to show the state their hand.
I understand what Jeff is saying, and I think that is a very good idea for an argument narrative. And like what I mean by that is one of the major things that has been questioned in the Idaho 4 case is the TOD, time of death, actually when the PCA is suggesting it is, because it has been moved 2 times, you guys, and I said you guys again, I need to get over that. It has been moved 2 times in the investigation and in this case. So by the defense submitting his alibi without including the TOD or his time at Wawa Way, are they leaving that open to then play ball with what they're having to deal with from the investigators and the prosecution, where maybe Bryan Kohberger doesn't know the exact times that he was at Wawa Way, but he knows that he wasn't in Moscow during that time. So instead of commit to an exact time in Wawa Way, they leave that open. You know what I mean? Because what if the TOD, the time of death, changes again? I think that's going to be a big argument in this case because we've seen it change multiple times. So it's not going away.
You don't think the state's going to be able to accurately pinpoint the time of death?
I think that, I mean, what you're saying is, yes, I do think they aren't going to be able to accurately give you what hour that it happened, because if they could, they would have the first time and not corrected it 2 other times. So I just think it's a lot more subjective than we realize it is because of an 8-hour delay.
Okay.
You know, and for a long, because this case is underway, because these hearings are underway, we haven't covered some of these concerns in the case that we were covering 6 months ago. But this is, in my opinion, still a very big deal in this case, even if it's not being argued right now. Is the time of death correct? What evidence do they have to pinpoint that time of death? Is it only the TikTok information?
So I think, look, I get what you're saying, but I think what the argument is that where Bryan was, if they have GPS or background application data or, any kind of data saying where he was at what times, that can't change. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
If the data says that's the time he was there, that's the time he was there.
You're right. However, you're leaving out the part of how long or how early he could have got there. Let's just say they're going to use metadata on a picture, and that picture places his GPS location at Wawa Way at 2 a.m. on the morning of the crime. However, that picture data, that metadata, does not say when he got there. It does not say when he left. It doesn't say if mid-walk he realized he has no service, so why am I going to leave my phone on? Click, turn it off. Oh, yeah, I've already been driving for 20 minutes and forgot to turn my phone back on. Like, there is a lot of leeway in that. And I do think that's a good argument, bringing up the idea of why the defense didn't include exact times. Does he even know exact times? I know we would love him to know exact times. So I got to tell you guys, when I'm going out and I'm going on a hike or something like that, am I like, okay, I need to show up at the parking lot at 2 a.m. I have 45 minutes to get my hike in, and I'm going to be leaving here at 2:45 a.m. Or so do they just not know the exact specifications of the time?
What how would they not know that if they are using a cell RF technology expert, okay,
because
who is
there's
tracking
no
him
coverage there.
Okay, so you're saying they don't actually have data proving he was at Wailea Park? Like,
what do you mean? That we already know there's no coverage there. So they are not going to have a total connection of time from the time he got there to the time he left. And I hope nobody is expecting that, because I've said it from the beginning, you're not going to get that.
Even with GPS?
No way. No, you are not going to get that. GPS, even less likely. GPS is not reliable when it comes to anything that is dealing with landscape that's in the way, trees, hikes, like no way.
And there was clouds.
Triangulation.
There were clouds at night.
Places like that. You need it. That is not what we're going to get for the alibi, you guys. I'm calling it right now. I am placing my flag on this hill that we are not going to get a time of arrival and the time of leaving. We are going to get something like background metadata that was able to get, you know, a GPS location on a picture, or you're going to get when he arrived at that location, and then you're going to have nothing, and then you're going to get when he left, something like that. I do not think we're going to have the entire time. I will be blown away, and I will be wondering, why is the dude sitting behind bars right now if it shows him there from, you know, this time until this time, and that entire time shows his phone at the park and it includes the crime? Then why is he behind bars?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be that perfect either. But I think a lot of people haven't really understood that GPS isn't, like, everyone keeps putting out this idea that GPS is superior, like that no matter what, you're being tracked by GPS and it's perfect.
It's because they're using the wrong words.
Well, it's also because people still think your phone is connecting directly to a satellite and there's nothing that can stop that connection, when that's not true. Clouds stop it.
Well, that you're also not connecting directly to a satellite.
Well, right. And you're not connecting directly to a satellite. You're connecting to a tower.
Yep. Your connection is not going straight up in the air. It's trilateration. It is it has a location of your phone directly up. That location sucks and is not very good because of the rotation of the earth, because of the electrons in the sky, because of the weather, because of all these things. So with those GPS satellites, they also have ground connections, ground bases. And when they locate you, they're using trilateration. So your phone is connecting up here and to the ground base and back to the phone. That is the only way they're going to get your location. They are not going to get your location just from a straight connection up. And I have said this from the beginning. You got to be very careful the words that people are using to describe GPS, you guys, because when you're describing GPS, listen, GPS is not more superior. It has the potential to be more precise. It has the potential to be more precise, meaning in perfect conditions, it can locate you down to a smaller base.
Okay, so question. If you're using TikTok, say at 2:30, and you get up and leave your phone for 2 hours, wouldn't that still show you're on TikTok even though you weren't using it? Yes, if a video was playing the whole time. If a video was playing the whole time, then yes. It absolutely would. But you guys, one thing with the TikTok thing, I saw that being brought up, that, you know, you were talking about like when the time of death was.
Yeah.
Well, have you seen Xana's last comment on TikTok? But because she made a comment, I don't remember the exact time. It was 4 something a.m. that morning. She left a comment on one of her friends' TikToks.
At
4 something. Yeah.
At 4 a.m.
I've seen it. There's videos of it. I've seen it. 4 something a.m. She left a comment that said like, "Yes, Queen," or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
I've never heard that.
Really? I've seen it.
I've never heard that.
I've seen it. There's videos of people showing it.
I just, okay. Yeah, I'm not willing to hop on that.
Yeah, it's a good point that
I'm not willing to hop on that.
It could not be real, but I think when this first came out, I went and looked and I found it, like that it was there.
Yeah. I got you.
On
I'm
that
just not
girl's
willing to hop
account.
on it. Listen, it's not ever personal. I don't believe anybody until I see stuff with my own eyes and can verify it.
I'll see if I can find it again, because I'm pretty sure I went looking for. I made a list of all of the victims' social media accounts so that I would have all of them easily accessible. And I remember seeing somebody show a video of it, and I went and looked for it and found it.
Okay.
And I confirmed it, but that was a long time ago. So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
She left a queen emoji. It was something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It is interesting.
But yeah, so I don't know. I would just need to see that in my opinion, that still doesn't mean anything. I need to understand the ins and the outs of that situation, you know.
For sure.
Because if the phone was left on and not closed, anybody could leave anything. And my next question would be, can we find historical evidence of her commenting like that on other pictures?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, we don't have that evidence, so we can't say yes unless we have that evidence. But that would be my next step, is to, okay, so we have a comment, right? So as going down the basic outline of investigation, we have a comment. How do we prove that comment was left by a certain person? Is this comment within the bounds of how they communicate historically?
I see what you're saying. I think from comments I saw Xana leaving on people's social medias, she was always really positive and like complimenting people. So it kind of makes sense for me if it turns out to be true. But obviously, I'm not saying 100% that it was her, because obviously I don't know that for sure. But I would just, why would they only do that on Xana's phone? Like, whoever did this, like, why would they take Xana's phone and leave a comment but not do it for anybody else?
Because you only need one.
And also, who thinks ahead that far?
I mean, I would. I think this crime was planned, clearly. So yeah, absolutely would. So I'm just saying it needs to be investigated from that objective, unbiased manner. Otherwise, I'm going to doubt it no matter what. It doesn't matter if it helps Bryan. It doesn't matter if it hurts Bryan. I'm not here for Bryan Kohberger. I'm here for justice for the victims that do I have that up on screen? Yeah. Okay. So for the victims that we have on the screen, that is the only thing that matters. So, you know, you got to make sure that it's being investigated correctly. And I do think I have did I post that poll? I don't know if I posted that poll.
So what, do you also think we don't know if Xana made the DoorDash order? You think that could be somebody else?
I think everything needs to be verified from that night. Absolutely. Because you have two living people still in that house. Okay. And the obvious, okay, if we're going to go all the way back, let's just take Bryan Kohberger out of this. If we're going to go down this road and we're going to get into this conversation, let's pretend Bryan Kohberger's never been arrested. Okay. Let's pretend that we are investigators that are just coming up on this crime scene for the first time ever. When you have 4 people gone, dead, and you have 2 people in the house that are alive, what is your first thought?
Were they involved?
Exactly.
Obviously.
You look closest first and start out. That's not only a crime scene. You're not only managing the crime starting from, you know, the epicenter and working out. You're also starting that way with relationships and people that were closest to the victim. So you have 2 roommates that were a part of this that were alive, okay? So when I'm looking at phone evidence and I'm thinking, wow, 8 hours went by, You know what I mean? I'm not trying to cast blame here, you guys. So don't take it as that. That's not where I'm trying to go with this. I'm trying to look at it objectively from an investigator. But as an investigator, I would think that your number one concern would be starting at the epicenter and working out. And the epicenter has 2 people that are alive, and there's some additional random evidence like TikTok orders, things of that nature. Could those people have been involved and place those orders to, change the time of the crime? These are all totally
let me ask
valid
you,
questions.
what's the benefit of changing the time of the crime from, okay, let's say it happened right after when Kaylee and Maddie's phones go dark, okay? When they're not calling Jack anymore and they're supposedly asleep, but let's say they weren't asleep, they were killed then. Like a lot of people think they were killed right after that. And there's a reason that their phone calls and texts stopped at that time.
Okay.
Let's say they were killed then. What is the benefit of the killer to make it appear all these victims were alive for a whole hour?
Misdirection.
And what time to doctor the crime scene and make it appear a certain way?
No, just simple misdirection will make sure nobody gets caught. There's nothing as long as you can misdirect the cops the right way. And let me give you an example of a very successful misdirection. Okay. I have known somebody before in my past life. Okay. I'm not going to incriminate anyone or self-incriminate anything like that. It was a very long time ago when I was under 18 and I was still dealing with the trauma from my childhood. But this person, okay, decided to break into a business, a corporately owned business, and leave with a safe. Okay. Safe.
Okay.
And they knew people inside of that business to know when the safe would have the most money, things of this nature. Okay. So they went into the business when the business was closed and grabbed what they were going to grab, and they walked out the front door. Before they left, they set the scene to make it look like they went out another door, knowing that there was a camera on the other side.
Okay.
They never went out that window. They made it look like it.
Okay.
Simple misdirection. The cops are going to fill their own gaps. All you do is start the narrative, not finish it. The cops will do that for you. So this could be a very similar situation where, all you got to do is start the misdirection, and law enforcement will finish that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. When cops enter a crime scene, they are not, unfortunately, entering that crime scene thinking, okay, what evidence could be legitimate and what evidence could be a misdirection, right? And that's why people that are criminals that are very classically trained, I guess you could say, book smart.
Classically trained.
Yeah, like went to school, have an education, understand the statistical values and probabilities in law enforcement and how law enforcement investigates and things of that nature, like having the knowledge of these things before even entering a crime scene or conducting a crime. Those people tend to not get caught because most people look at things and think, someone wouldn't do that. Yeah, that's exactly why it works, because most people think someone wouldn't do that. You're right. Someone wouldn't do that, except for the person that would. Like a planned crime scene with 4 people dead and very little evidence. I think it could be very real. I think Bryan Kohberger has the possibility of being guilty and conducted the crime in this nature even. I mean, really here, maybe this whole story is wrong. Maybe the PCA was, maybe the FBI, maybe this story's true. The FBI used illegal tactics to get Bryan Kohberger's name, and he definitely is guilty without a doubt, but he planned the crime in this nature and had thought about misdirection, setting up the crime, knew that the phone would be on and would be able to put it on TikTok and make a comment to change the time of death. Like, these are very real possibilities. That's why I say to this day that I have no idea if Bryan Kohberger's guilty or innocent for this reason right here. Because I don't know without a 100% certainty that Bryan Kohberger didn't do this and couldn't do this. I'm not confident we have the whole story because of how untrue the PCA is.
Right. No,
is it possible they frantically tried to throw together a PCA because the FBI gave a name to the Moscow PD, and the FBI just happened to come across it when they were there doing their drug busts locally, the 3 biggest drug busts they had back to back to back to back in all of the Northwestern territory, and somehow, some way they came across his name and by illegal means verified that, gave it to Moscow PD, and Moscow PD threw together a PCA in a really crappy manner, and this is where we're at, you know? People are going to hate me for saying this right now. I already know it because a lot of our viewership believe that Bryan Kohberger's being railroaded and that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. And, you know, all I can do is give my honest opinion here. And that's why I come on here and say, I have no idea if Bryan Kohberger's innocent. I have no idea if Bryan Kohberger's guilty. I really don't. I have no idea.
I don't either.
What really happened at 1122 because the PCA sucks so bad.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah. I agree. I think it sucks too. I think that's why I was so confused when it first came out. So many people were acting like it was this bombshell PCA, like it was so full of amazing evidence and they got the guy. So many people, like everyone, a lot of people that come here are like, how? Yeah. How could you think that reading it? It's not a bombshell. And, you know, in these past few hearings, we've been seeing that. Like that's become very apparent in the past few hearings, considering most of the evidence that they claim to have against Kohberger, they're not giving over to the defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I see what you're saying with the misdirection. I mean, I agree that misdirection is important and works. It's just that I'm trying to think specifically in this case. So you're saying misdirection doesn't, like, they could just do it to do it, not to point in a specific direction.
Yeah,
just
it is
like
pointing in a specific
direction. Confusion.
It is pointing in a specific direction. Like the example I gave where the person that I know of, right, real life situation from decades ago, entered a business and stole something that wasn't theirs to steal, and they went out the front door and locked it on the way out, but opened a window and put a fake footprint on a toilet. Like the person stood on the toilet and then went out the window in an area that's covered by cameras. So then cops are going to be like, wait, how do we not have an image of this when this area is covered by video? We have a footprint here when, lo and behold, that shoe didn't belong to the person that did the crime. They didn't go out that window. They actually went out the front door and locked it on the way out. You don't need to close that situation. You just need to misdirect and mislead, you know? So here's another option here. What if, and listen, for people that are obsessively, that are sociopaths and obsess over ending somebody's life, okay? They would have been thinking about this for a very long time. To assume that they wouldn't have the capability and forethought to think of misdirection before they conducted this crime is a gross mistake on our part, on my part, okay? So is it possible that Bryan Kohberger went to Wawa, ran his phone out somewhere, and set his phone up on a timer to take a picture, ran back to his car, went to Moscow, did this crime, went back to Wawa, picked up his phone that was set on a timer to take a picture, and went on his merry way? Like, there are real misdirection techniques that could be conducted that are very possible. And the only way we're going to know one way or the other is having all the evidence. And I'm telling you, it is the reason why I am not willing to say Bryan Kohberger is innocent, because I don't know. without having the full picture. I don't know without having all the details, you know?
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I don't think anybody does. Like, we have to see the evidence for sure.
I think that when we're looking at this case, I think it is more likely, like the theory that holds the most weight, in my opinion, is the 4chan theory. And I know it's considered the most tin hat theory, but you have a fight right before this scenario. That would be my number one go-to as an investigator is,
and it
okay.
it feels like it wasn't vetted, like, and debunked.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it was debunked properly.
It doesn't feel like it was investigated properly. So, because again, all crime scenes, you start at the epicenter and work out, right? So you're going to start in there at the scene, but you're also going to start at their closest relationships. So the next would be the other roommates. Then after that would be their sisters in the Greek life. Then after that would be the other fraternities and sororities in the Greek life. Then after that would be, you know, people that they work with, coworkers and things of that nature. Then after that, you would start looking at other students that they associated with. Then after that, you would start looking at other people, maybe social media encounters and interactions. Then, you know what I mean? So when you're looking at it, going from the epicenter out, the next in line after the roommates would be the 4chan theory. And was that actually investigated to a dead end?
Not the roommates. It'd be boyfriends.
What? I'm wait, what?
You said after the roommates, it would be the 4chan theory. I think they would look at roommates and boyfriends and girlfriends first, and
I
then
was
probably
skipping
4chan.
some steps. That's why I laid out, you know, the steps right before that comment. But yes, I just mean from one theory to another, skipping close relationships in the fraternity or personal relationships. But yeah, you would go from the roommates and then go to the Greek life. And that next theory that we know of is the 4chan theory. And we don't know if that was investigated to a dead end. And I think that law enforcement made a horribly disgusting mistake if they didn't do that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, at least for myself, when I think of the Bryan Kohberger case and the Idaho 4 case, I feel like I'm giving myself a disservice if I willingly believe Bryan Kohberger is innocent. I just don't have enough evidence. One thing I do have enough evidence of, though, is that law enforcement sucked. Just to be blunt here, right? Just to be completely upfront and blunt. Law enforcement's investigation really sucked bad. There are a lot of things that don't add up. And I think we are seeing the recourse of that in Bill Thompson right now.
Yeah, I mean, the crime scene wasn't handled correctly whatsoever. It wasn't handled right.
We need to cover those topics again. There's been a lot of people who, because that was like 6 months ago or more, and we never covered it on the True Crime Talk Show, going over like how minimal 113 pieces of physical evidence is in a quadruple homicide when you're looking at national statistical data on how much the average homicide has in physical evidence. The average homicide has double than 113. So then you times that by 4, you're looking at the average quadruple homicide with an unsuspected suspect is 250 times 4. So it's anywhere between 800 to 1,000 pieces of physical evidence. And that's one of the videos that we did, you guys. If you look in our Bryan Kohberger timeline, one is titled 113 pieces of evidence, where we actually go through the national averages for physical evidence per homicide. And this is way off. And we're told every single hearing that there is so much evidence. There is so much to this. I mean, there's a lot of pictures, which I don't know if I would classify as evidence, but there's not a lot of actual physical evidence, you know?
No, there isn't.
You remember talking about that when
yes.
Crime Circus brought up the trash can, and why wasn't that trash can bagged separately? And like,
yeah. And I think one of the more compelling videos for me was talking about the standards of how you're supposed to handle a crime scene, and you go as big as you can and make it smaller, and instead they literally started as small as they could and went bigger, and that's not what you're supposed to do. Like, they should have blocked off the whole neighborhood, really. Instead, they just taped off the house only. Also all the things they left outside, like the coat, the glove, all that stuff. They didn't even go out. It was days later they went out and even looked outside.
I know. It's
so
really
absurd.
Unfortunate.
So absurd.
But yeah, as you can see here, these are all the videos, the pre-records that are non-lives, talking about the breakdown of the Idaho 4 case. Oop, that one shouldn't be in there. But this goes into detailed evidence here through everything. Secrets, PCA breakdown, PCA read-throughs, Idaho 4, IgG breakdowns, DNA breakdowns, who you know, Dr. Moore, crime scene contamination, fog data, hum science, the accelerometer in phones, who Ann Taylor is, multiple DNA profiles. I mean, we literally take it to the bone here in this investigation. We go through absolutely everything. I was going to try and find that 113 pieces of evidence, but maybe I passed it. Let's see here. Tell me if you see 113. Where are we at? So I can at least post it so people can...
Right there.
Right there. All right. Oh, shoot. Wait, is that it? Okay, I guess that is it. So, all right, we have a lot of people on here on other platforms right now, not on YouTube. So I am posting this link on YouTube, everybody. But for those of you that are not on YouTube, you can go onto our channel here and search under here. I'll just take you to it. So if we go to our homepage channel, right? So Thought Riot Podcast, and you go to playlists. Under playlists, you will find the 4chan theory. You will find where are you at? What's it titled? I think it's Idaho 4, Bryan Kohberger, Moscow. So when you click this, you are going to get all these videos that are Idaho 4 related, where we are taking this investigation down to the bones, baby, and back. So I just posted that. I'll post it one more time for everybody here. And actually, what I'll do is put it in, I'll put it in the details in the description. Hang on.
Part of me just wonders, look, I don't want to say, like, I don't know, just part of me wonders if we're getting caught up in the wrong things in this case sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. like we talked about the other night, there are people that intentionally pretend like they are pro human rights and pro a fair investigation and trial so that they can align themselves with other people who are questioning this trial and believe in human rights and a fair trial in this situation. And then they are throwing in bits of information to misdirect everybody because they don't want anybody creating any sort of aligned way of thinking in this case. So yeah, I do. I get it 100%. I think that I'm an advocate that there is absolutely nothing. Okay. And a lot of people get mad at me every time I say this also, but I don't think there is absolutely anything on the Grub Truck video or the Linda Lane video. I think those have been put out in the community and are covered endlessly to make us look everywhere but the crime scene. That's what I believe, you guys. And if you feel like there is something weird going on those videos, I'm sorry. There could be. Understand, I'm saying that, and I'm saying that, understanding that yes, there could be evidence on there, but I think it's been used to misdirect people. And the reason being is because even if there is something funky on there, those could never be used in court. Never. There are too many sounds that happen between the crime scene and that video footage. There are too many people on the video. The video isn't good enough to know. Even Bryan Kohberger's car on the Linda Lane, Bryan Kohberger's car on the Linda Lane footage, it is not clear enough to see. The only clear footage out there is footage that is using AI fill-in, and that would never be acceptable in court. So I just don't think there's anything on those. I think the real evidence is at 1122, and it's not ever going to change.
I don't know. I don't know if I completely agree or not. I think there has been red herrings that have pulled people's attention away from the things that actually matter in the case. But I don't know if those are red herrings. I don't know. I think that they could be for sure. But I'm not sure. So
I did see the Contactthought video.
Huh?
I'm just trying not to laugh because that Contactthought video is so funny. Jules of all trades, Jules of all trades covered it, and Coffin Daffer was like trying to gain evidence for herself on the Karen Reed case, and she was caught on a Ring camera, like, trolling up to somebody's house to snap a picture or whatever, and then runs away. It's really
Coffin
funny.
Daffer did?
Yeah, it's really funny. It's really, hopefully, I don't know where that footage is. I don't have Jules of all trades approval to use her content.
If she's playing it from some other person's footage, though, I don't think it'll matter.
Yeah, but we don't have her. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'll reach out to Jules and see if it's okay to play her content. But it's just funny. It's really funny. But yeah, I think that this case socially in the true crime community is a wreck. I really do. I think the Idaho 4 case, there is so much madness going on in the community, including content creators like us. That it is a roll of the dice whether what we're bringing to the table is actually helping or hurting this thing. And I try and do the best I can, but I don't know, it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. We just try and be as good faith as we possibly can.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to take a screen recording of it. Anyway, look, I don't know what the right thing is to pay attention to and focus on in the case other than just hard evidence. But we don't have it is part of the problem. That's it. That is like the biggest issue in Sebastian Rogers' case is that there's zero evidence. So it makes everything subjective. And I think it's an issue in this case too. I think there is hard evidence, but it's just not being given to the public. A lot of things are being shielded from us. And I think it creates this situation where people are being subjective, and then everything gets so confused that nobody knows what is true anymore. In some situations, like the whole, I mean, like even the Xana comment, like, you know what I mean? Like, I need to go back and find it, but like these things can get, like, at some point your memory fails you and you're like, well, I could have thought I found it, but actually
my memory
didn't.
fails me the next day. Whatever I'm saying today, I won't remember tomorrow.
Yeah, so like you might think something's real and then find out it wasn't. And I don't know, sometimes I just wonder, like, what, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the right thing to focus is on. I'm trying to focus on the evidence, focus on the things said in court, and see where it goes, and try to keep an open mind. I think a lot of issues in cases like this is people, they hear only what they want to hear, and there's a lot of confirmation bias. And I think one person that's a good example of that is Coffin Daffer. And I'm not saying I don't respect her. And I think she kind of admitted to her bias in the Karen Reed case recently, that she has some emotional buy-in there. You know what I mean? And I think people just, I mean, that's what we try to literally avoid on the channel. And I'm sure it still happens sometimes anyway, but is that echo chamber of that confirmation bias of only trying to reaffirm the belief you already have. You're only paying attention to the information that confirms what you already think.
Yeah, like you're going about it trying to constantly prove your opinion on the case, and how dangerous that can
and that's
be.
why I think the lawyer, you know, that's why I gave him that big compliment earlier, because I think he's one person that doesn't do that, compared to a lot of other people. Like, I think it's really interesting if you look at our content and you look at other people's content. You look at somebody who thinks Bryan Kohberger's guilty, somebody who thinks Bryan Kohberger's innocent. They're seeing these court hearings very differently. Very differently. Like, you have one person, and remember that one hearing where people were saying that Ann Taylor confirmed it was Bryan Kohberger's car at the crime scene?
Yeah.
Like, that is just an example of how differently we're interpreting things. And I think that's all confirmation bias. And I just think we have to be careful about it. Because it's a scary thing. Like, one thing in my life that really
echo
taught me,
chambers are terrifying.
one thing in my life that really taught me how outside of reality I could be while thinking I'm perfectly logical and in reality is going to counseling, going to and hearing things and learning things about myself, and then thinking I was better, and then getting hit with something else and finding out, like, my reality just kept opening up. Like, the first time I went to therapy.
Welcome to my life.
It's like your mind is an onion.
I don't trust myself at all. Ever.
So, like, the first time I went to therapy, I felt like my mind was opened so big. And then, like, a year into it, it was like, again, I was like, wow, I actually know nothing.
Yeah, that's why I say all the time that, listen, and I think a lot of people that watch us, just because
I didn't explain that very well, but
just because a lot of people take my confidence as me being cocky, and I truly believe that I don't know anything. So this idea that I act like I know everything, I don't think I know anything. You know, I have the quote I always use is, I only know one thing in life, and that's that I know nothing. I truly mean that 100% in all aspects of my life. I do not think that I know anything, and I just pursue investigations and life and everything that I don't know what I'm walking into, and every situation that I'm involved in, I am learning.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't trust myself at all. But I don't trust myself intentionally because I think it's a benefit for yourself to not trust yourself. because our emotions lead us the wrong way. And I think cases like this are very good examples of that. Very good examples of that.
Yeah, because I mean, I see people I respect a lot in this case doing that whole confirmation bias thing. And it's like, and I see myself even doing it sometimes. And I just think that, I don't know. I wish we would have a little bit more objectivity in the case, I guess is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm hoping these hearings recently, even if it's Ann Taylor, okay, putting on this act for the public the way kind of, and I don't know if the lawyer, exactly meant it that way. I don't mean to make it sound crappy because he didn't say it in a crappy way, but like putting on this show for the public to help balance the scales essentially is what I think. He never used that term, balance the scales, but even if it's her doing this intentionally to get this information out there to the public, to make them think a certain way, I'm hoping it'll help at least bring some more objectivity to the case and where things can be more balanced. Are you going to pull it up?
Yeah, they said that they got it on Twitter. So I just want to, why? Oh,
It's tiny though.
Yeah.
It's on Instagram. The Instagram link is bigger. You can see it better if you want me to send it to you.
Hang on. Let me.
Dude, that's
and thank you for that super chat that said I'll email it on Twitter. Thank you for that. We appreciate you for that, and that's why we're showing it up on here. So thank you. And hang on, everybody.
Okay, can I do something real quick?
So
hold on.
Well, I'm just gonna.
No, just wait. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger.
I'm gonna go full screen.
I can't. Will it let you?
I mean, I can. Here, turn off sound.
Can you zoom in? Will it let you zoom in at all with the keyboard thing?
Nope.
Oh, gosh dang.
It won't. But hang on, let me look on here. Okay, yeah. So this person in the this person right here is Jennifer Coffindaffer, and this is what we were giggling about earlier. So it's just funny. And this is some random person's house. Look at her. Oh man. Oh, Jennifer.
Her running away.
She's literally running off like a little elf or something. Like that is hilarious.
Quick picture, get out of here. That would be me, dude. It is full screen. Sorry,
there's background music. I can't.
Yeah, we can't do the audio, unfortunately. But we can retweet it on Twitter, you guys. So if any of you want to go check it out, you definitely can.
Yeah.
It's at Thought Riot Pod.
Here, I'll post our Twitter.
Yeah, just press the retweet button for that post real quick.
Did I close it? No. Okay, hang on.
No, we haven't shown that creator at the Karen Reed trial, but we did talk about it, and it was really gross. But
okay, I just reposted it, everybody, and then
we don't like calling people out here. That's not something we're here really to do.
And then I just posted a link to our Twitter, but we got the majority of our viewers are not on YouTube. So on Twitter, if you go to twitter.com, search Thought Riot Pod. So it's twitter.com Thought Riot Pod here. Look right there. Bam, bam, bam. Thought Riot Pod. All right. And we did just repost it. Okay. So let's see here.
And you're right, Joanne. I can't deny the change in trajectory of the case in the last month. These hearings have been intense. And I agree. I think the defense has had a lot of confidence in the case in these past couple hearings. It's flipped to where they seem very confident. And, well, Bryan Kohberger's always seemed very confident. Very stoic and confident. If I'm being honest, he has always seemed confident. which is he seems so unshakable, which is partly I kind of side eye him for that a little bit. I know a lot of people.
It does make him more suspicious.
It does make him more suspicious. I have to admit, the way he sits there so stoic, like, and not worried. I don't know if that's like.
It doesn't make me feel like
It could be just making
guilty.
A point. It could be making a point too.
Oh, no,
like I'm not gonna let them see me sweat it. Okay?
I don't think so.
Why?
I think that the best thing to do is not give any emotion one way or the other. I really
That's
do.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. I hear you. But what I'm saying is,
so why you disagree?
It doesn't make me feel like he's more or less guilty, but I understand why others would feel like that because of this mainstream media narrative that has been pushed over and over and over again, that if Bryan Kohberger was innocent, then Bryan Kohberger would be yelling, "I'm innocent and this is where I was." And that is just not what is best for a court case. That is not what's best for a court case. So it just doesn't hold true, you know. It just doesn't hold true.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyways, I think that is it for the Idaho 4 conversation for tonight, everybody.
Well,
what?
I just want to say, I wasn't saying it in a negative way necessarily. My only point is that I think it can be taken in a way where he just like not showing emotion for a lot of humans. It doesn't look good. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are going to judge somebody like that harshly. And part of me is like, how is he so stoic? Like, I can't comprehend it. Cause I know if I was in his position in those past hearings, my jaw would have been on the floor if I was sitting in his seat.
Yeah,
I would have been
not
like,
me, though, to be honest, mine wouldn't.
I would have been like, what is happening here? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I would have been intentionally.
Agree, Liz. If he shows feelings, it would also be taken as bad too.
Yep,
I agree.
100%.
I agree. So I think the best thing for him to do. I agree. I think the best thing for him to do is not to show feelings, but he's just been like one of the best in a case like this to not show anything. Like it's incredible, actually. But I don't know. There could be a lot of reasons for it, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. It doesn't necessarily mean they're bad.
Yeah.
But part of me is just, I wonder, like, how?
Wait, how what?
How this whole time there hasn't been a single court hearing where you've seen him not just.
Because I think he's doing what's best for him.
Yeah.
Not what looks best in society's narrative and the gossip tabloids narrative, but what's best for him and his hearings, in my opinion. But I don't know. I don't know for sure one way or the other. All I know is I want to, at the end of this insanity of a case that we are covering right now, I want to feel like we can rely on our law enforcement to arrest, convict, and hold accountable a person that has the capability of ending 4 young adults' lives. You know?
Yeah.
I really, really, really think that that's up in the air right now. And I think that Bryan is a good distraction as to why they're trying to cover that.
Yeah.
Up. Or Bryan's the good distraction to cover that up. I'm sorry, to cover that up.
And thank you, Critical Thinking Cap. Appreciate that. And Sherlock, I saw her say it's an autistic trait too. And she compared it to Elon Musk, an autistic trait to. That's interesting. I didn't think of that. I know that a lot of people suspect that he is on the spectrum or something. I didn't think of that.
Yep. All right, everybody. We appreciate all of you for hanging out with us. We appreciate all of you for being here tonight for the True Crime Talk Show brought to you by Thought Riot Podcast. Just a reminder, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you hit those 3 stars. Make sure you hit those 5 stars. Make sure you leave a comment under the video to let us know how we're doing, because this is a viewer ran show. We cover topics that you comment about and that you talk to us about and that you tell us about. We are the continued and source for our goal is an unobjected, is an objective, unbiased approach to the hottest cases that are out right now. We are trying to be more objective and more unbiased than the mainstream media, who is, you know, trying to make sure that our videos don't get seen. So share them with your family, share them with your friends, let people know about Thought Riot Podcast and the True Crime Talk Show, and let them know that if they come and share their favorite cases, we will see that and we will cover them. So just keep doing what you guys are doing. It's insane. We've been getting, you know, like 1,000 new subscribers a day, all from you guys, all from sources from sharing our content and everything else. So you know, it is incredible, absolutely incredible. Even though, you know, the people who are trying to make our views go down, I've been working really hard. They're working on overdrive this past week and a half, 2 weeks or whatever it is. I don't even pay attention. It doesn't affect us at all. But for you guys, I just want to tell you, we appreciate you for continuing to share, promote, and help the content along.
Yeah, and Twitter's it's picking up steam. It's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. So if you're watching us on X right now, or you've been interacting with our X account, I really appreciate it, because I've been trying to put some work into it. I know Brennan's been trying to hop on there more recently too. And you know, we live stream from there too. And if that chat becomes really active, then you know, hopefully we can put more into it.
We live stream from 8 different platforms simultaneously.
But yeah, hop on over there if you haven't yet. You know, learning all these social medias is it's a feat, and I think I'm going to tackle it one by one. Like first Twitter,
for sure,
then Instagram, and figure out exactly how it works so that I know how to use it the best. But we are on all social medias, so please give us some support over there. You know, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave us a review on podcast platforms, leave a like or a heart wherever you're at, and we'll see you guys next time. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And we'll catch you next time.
Views don't really mean anything. That's why it doesn't even matter what our views are. That has no gauge on anything. There's a big old you know, long math problem you can come up with to find out what is important. But yeah, you're right. So even though our views are down, that's why I don't even worry about it. I have no idea how many views we get a day. I do know that we're getting about 1,000 subs a day, which is incredible, because regardless of if people are trying to make our content not seen, the subs will catch up and grow, because we don't play that fake subs buying game. That's insane. That's somebody, if you do that, you're tanking your channel. So, you know, all of our subs are legit internationally. In the US, we've been getting a lot from Australia. But you know, it will catch. So just keep doing what you guys are doing. You are awesome. And we appreciate you. And yeah, we are out of here. Thank you all.
Yes, we appreciate you.
Good night.
See you next time.